Hi, I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my theory tuition series where I'm working with you step by step through each of the ABRSM theory grades. There are lots of resources available to help you on my website. If you go to sharonbill.com, you'll find some free PDF information sheets. You can download these in US letter or A4 to accompany each step of this series. You'll find a page there with links to all of my YouTube video tutorials, and you can also find out about the books that I have available. I've written an exam technique guide, How to Take Your ABRSM Music Theory Exam. It's full of tips and techniques on how to best be prepared for your exam, and also how to make the best use of your time come exam day. So if you visit sharonbill.com, you'll find it's all there. If you can give me a like, that would be really super, and please do subscribe to my channel and share out the videos. And now we're going to complete paper B of the 2019 grade 5 practice papers. So if you turn with me to page 16, we'll first of all have a look at question 6. So we have a little extract of music here and some questions that will refer back to this. So our first question is a musical term, an Italian musical term. And so we're asked to explain what sonoro means. Now if you think about this, this is the root word sonorous really does help us here. And it means a resonant, rich tone. So that's that done. However, do bear in mind that anything here that will be presented to you in this question is multiple choice relating back to all of the terms and musical directions from grades 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 as well. So there's a hefty chunk of revision there. And if you refer to your PDF document, you'll see that I've given you some little revision tests at the back of some of them, and also in some of the earlier PDF documents I've given you some revision tips as well. So I really do recommend that you give those a good revision session. So now then, let's carry on and look at question B. So the triplet in bar 2, if we just have a look there, we can see a triplet with this little number 3 here. It means 3 quavers in the time of, so we could either just very simply say 3 quavers in the time of 2 quavers, or if you prefer the terminology 8th notes, you'd say 3 quavers in the time of, 3 8th notes in the time of 2 8th notes. So that will be fine. Or alternatively, you could reduce it down further and you could say 1 crotchet. The maths are the same. Or if you prefer the terminology, you'd say 1 quarter note. There we go. So any of those will answer that just so. So now then, we're helpfully told that the key is G minor. And we're asked to name the notes and give them their technical names for the notes marked X and Y. But before I just refer back to the music, I'm just going to sketch out the degrees of the scale. So it's helpful to have a piano keyboard to just check your notes of the scale. So we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then back to G again. So the steps, the degrees of the scale are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You don't have to do this, it just takes a little bit of the thinking away. So let's have a look what X is. So here, this is middle C. Remember, middle C is at the bottom of the treble, top of the bass. Imagine you're meeting in the middle C. We're in the treble clef. So that's C, B, A. And so A is the second. I'm just going to sketch that there. We'll worry about the technical names in a second. And so now let's look at Y. So this is an E. Remember, the treble clef lines are every good boy deserves. So that's an E. And E is the 6th. Of course, it's an E flat if we're in G minor. However, your key signature will take care of all of that. So now we need to think about the technical names. And the second is called the supertonic. and the 6th is the submediant. If you want to delve into these a little bit further and you want to know why it's the supertonic or why it's the submediant, if you look at the video I've done, it's in the playlist Music Theory for Everyone, and as a video explaining the technical names of the degrees of the scale and why. I'll put a link to the playlist in the cards and in the description, so do have a look at that playlist for a little bit more revision and research, and particularly if you want to find out about those, it's in the technical names video there. So now we've got a bit of thinking to do here, because we need to rewrite bar 3, but we need to rewrite it using notes of half the value, but we can't change the musical effect at all, so we're going to have to change the time signature. So in order to do that, let's think what we've got to begin with here. So we're in common time, which is 4 crotchet beats, 4 quarter notes per bar. So we need to still stay in quadruple time. So we're still counting 4 beats per bar, but instead of counting in crotchets or quarter notes, we need to halve that to 1/8 notes, quavers. And so our new time signature will be 4/8. Once you've done that bit of thinking, the rest of it's easy. So we've basically halved everything without changing the musical effect. So bar 3, here we go. So to halve everything now, a quaver will become a semi-quaver or a 16th note. A crotchet or a quarter note will become a quaver. So this will become a semi-quaver. We're basically adding a beam to everything. So they will become semi-quavers, 16th notes. And here, these will become semi-quavers or 16th notes. So we've done all of the thinking. And then we're going to have to decide how to group these as well. So first of all, I'm just going to pop in the note heads. So just copying these. Oh no, that goes down. Make sure you copy them correctly. So then we have an E, D, repeat that note, D, C, B. So let's think, before we get going, how we're going to beam these, because we need to show how we're going to beam this. So let's group them in quarter note or crotchet beats. If there were much tiny divisions of semis and demi-semis, we'd have to group them in quaver beats, but we can group them in crotchet beats. So we group those together because 2 quarters and a half of a beat in crotchet beats. And then these will all join together as well. So first of all, we need our stems. Join these together, and then we need to show that these are now semi-quavers, but we can't go through the line because that would change this into a semi-quaver or 16th note as well. So we keep that separate and we just have these inside the beam. Now then, let's just pop all of these together. And then let's get the stems in. Now then, you could, let's think. I think what we'll do, we will show those as semis, they as semis, and then that gives us the opportunity to section this off to show the triplet there. And then we've grouped it all correctly. You could possibly get away with continuing that line through because they're all semiquavers, all 16th notes, and then you could just sort of slur that to show the triplet as relating to those three. But I'm not going to continue that line. I'm going to just separate those off. I think that's the best way of showing our 2 halves of the beat there. So that's that one done. Let's press on to the next bit. So we're asked to rewrite the last note of the extract. So we need it to sound at exactly the same pitch, but we're going to change to alto clef. So we need to put in the new clef and the key signature. So the clef for the alto clef has the middle line here as middle C. So we'll have a double bar line, and then this is our sort of anchor point here. And we just build our clef around that. And then the key signature of 2 flats must now change position. So there's C, so the B flat is one step below, C, D, E. There's our E flat. Now then, keeping middle C as our anchor point, because we don't want to end up an octave out, let's look at the last note of the extract, which is here. So this is middle C, so we're on the C, B, A, G, 1, 2, 3, 4 below middle C. And so there's middle C, C, B, A, G, 1, 2, 3, 4 notes below, and so the stem will have to go up. There we go. That's the end of that question. And so let's press on to question 7. And this is always, I think, the really happy, quick, easy end to a paper. Chords is one of my favourite sections because once you've done your thinking, a little bit of planning, and then you're home and dry for the last question. Not too taxing at all. The first job we've got to do though, because we've got to indicate chords to show our cadence points. So if you remember, the cadences are prescribed chords to show a particular ending. So we could either have chords 4-1, just generally speaking here, just a bit of a refresher, which is your plagal cadence. It's a nice gentle ending. It's like an amen sort of finish to a piece. We have our perfect cadence, which is 5-1, which is kind of a ta-da, much stronger close. Or we could have anything to chord 5, which is the imperfect cadence, which literally leaves you hanging. It just doesn't sound finished at all. So we've got to choose those, and then we've got a lead-in chord here as well. But we can't choose chords until we know what key we're in. So looking here, we've got no sharps or flats, no accidentals at all, so we're in the key of C major. So now we can go on and write out our chords. So we're looking for chords 1, 2, 4 and 5. And if we're in C major, chord 1 is built on note C. And now stepping up the scale to 2, C, D. If you find that difficult to do in your head, just count up. 1, 2, 3, 4 is F, 5 is G. And now we build up our triads. So counting 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, E, G, because a triad is built on the first, the third and the fifth. So D, F, A, F, A, C, and G, B, D. And then as a little double check, we know that's the first, the third and the fifth. So that last note of chord 1 should be the basis of chord 5. There's chord 5. So we know we've not gone wrong there. And so now we've got to look in this melody line and we've got to choose which chord would fit best. And if ever there's an option, we've got to choose the one which'll give the prescribed cadential ending. We've also got to watch out because some notes may not be part of the chord, they just may be passing through in step and not actually harmony notes, just little fill-in notes. So let's see what we've got here. We've got an A, an F, a C and an A. Well, that's everything we need for chord 4. We can't put whether it's a root first or second inversion because we have no bass line, so we don't have that information to hand and we're not required to write it. So then next one we have an E and a G. Well, that's 2/3 of chord 1, and that was enough to tell us that it's a chord 1 because we know that we're looking for a plagal cadence there. That's the only option we've got for this little cadence here. Now then, what have we got here? We've got an F, a G, an A and a D. Well, that G isn't part of the chord, that's just passing through in step. A passing note is always just filling in between in step. So now we know that's not involved. We're looking for a F, an A and a D. Well, that's chord 2. And that makes sense because chord 2 is always a nice lead in, just bringing us up to a cadence point. So here we have an E, a C, a G and an E. So that's chord 1. And then here we have a D and a G, which is 2/3 of the chord. So it's enough information to tell us that we're going to a chord 5. And really that's the only option we've got because it can be anything to chord 5. And so we've got an imperfect cadence, which is going to leave us hanging. So we're left at a sort of a hanging point, not quite finished for this piece of music. However, we've definitely finished this question and we've certainly finished this exam paper. I do hope that's helpful to you. If you can give me a like, that would be super, and please do subscribe to my channel to keep updated. And please do visit sharonbill.com and make use of all of the resource and information that's available to help you there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.